Welcome, guys. Started a little bit early, guys, so I'm just waiting until 12 o'clock. Hope you're well. Hi, Rach, you right? I'm just waiting until 12 o'clock because most people won't get their notifications to that. Hopefully you can hear me okay today. Seems to be the bane of my life, audio. Awesome. Yeah, I think the first time I used my laptop as a source, then it didn't go too well. I've learned since then. I'm a learned person. Cool. I think all my scenes are ready. A little bit better than last week. It's working. Good morning, Mike. How are you? You had a good week? It's been a long one, this one. Long week. Been really busy on the farm here. A few late nights, a few early mornings. It's never really hurt anyone there. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to coming out of lockdown. You've probably got some appointments ready to go see on the STEM side soon. You must be in high demand. Just wait until 12 o'clock here, Mike, quick, and then I'll start. A couple more minutes. Hopefully the hairdressers will open soon and I won't have to wear a hat anymore. Fantastic. It's really good. Got some prints on the screen here. Some differences in between them. Some new profiles we're working on. I'll show you some stuff. We're going to go into fish here quite a bit today, Mike. And David, if he's here. You'll quite enjoy that. Here he is. Knew you'd be here, Dave. Oh, you're on YouTube. Fantastic. Anyone who's watching on Facebook, if you find your way to our YouTube and give it a like and a share if you can. See if I can get a link in there. Hi David, hope you're well. You had a good week? Yeah, this will be all the videos watchable on the YouTube afterwards, David. I'm not entirely sure how it all works, but I managed to set it up and then it posts them. Yeah, way beyond me. But it works. And like these scenes, I can switch between stuff. I really do enjoy it. I'm getting on with it. We're going to find out how to add Rick into the have a little box over there for Rick next week. He's going to come on and tell us some things. Should be good. Cool. Right. Happy Friday, everyone. So once again, we come to the end of the week sort of training we do, or Q&A, ask us anything sort of session. I think it's really good doing these so people can look back at certain references, even things that people have talked about during the stream, to get some questions answered, which is good. We've had some really good feedback from some of our customers that review it afterwards, looking into various things, so we're going to keep doing it. Max has been really busy today, so he hasn't done any video content for us, but next week he's going to do some design specials and help with some of the design work that you guys are doing. We work quite closely with our customers in helping them out anyway, just with errors on files and things like that. So if ever you've got an issue, just let us know. Cool. So we're going to look mainly at Craftware today. I don't want to spread it over too many slices. Might do a little simplified 3D, maybe some support settings. Because mostly simplified 3D, reduce the flow, and mostly you can convert most of your settings over. But the flow is definitely one. I think Rick would probably comment on that as well. Is 90 seems to be the 100, or 92, 94. So you can scale the flow a little bit. For Craftware. So we've got some go through some of the profiles that we have, the reasons for us doing some of the things we do, and how you can change your settings to be better or the same. Mostly filament profiles we found, and going on how we work it out and how we approach finding filament settings is we watch the print. So we start with something we know. Usually a lot of the profiles that we generate are generated off of platforms that we have, like 2 platforms. Depending on the temperature of filament, cooling gas can be changed throughout the different profiles we have. But there's many other settings that we can change to get what we want to do what we want to do. So I want to go through some of the things that we change commonly when we change profiles or filaments. So we actually use this Euro ABS as a bit of a standard load. Max, you come and get my phone there. We use the ABS Euro as a standard load to generate settings and go forward with different parameters for different filaments. My phone there, someone just rang me. You bring it back. And there's lots of variables that we can change in Craftware that are totally dependent on the print, that aren't dependent on the filament at all. So identifying the differences is good. So we can change lots of variables from Euro ABS. We can go reduce the speed if we want to print. Like for instance, when I print PLA, I would reduce the speed. PTG would be similar, maybe a bit less. But we can change our draw speed here, and that's the overall draw speed of the print. And we can change a lot by changing that. I don't really go above 60. We can go up to 80. Like I know we can do it. Speed and temperature are related quite considerably. So if you're taking, if you want to run ABS faster, you're going to have the temperature raised. And if you go from 0.2 to 0.3, you'd have to increase your temp quite considerably as well. That's a lot more plastic. You're melting out the hot end. So we'd raise our temp in that respect also. Our flow, we tried to adjust everything around 100% flow. We do reduce it sometimes. Sometimes when we use like variation, for instance, it will be 80% flow because the filament's so foamy and it expands when you print it. Just quite similar to silk filaments in a way, which is considerable. Scott, can you message me after, please? So yeah, we can change the flow. Flow's adjustable. We can deduce our flow by watching our print. When I'm making different profiles, I'll be watching the print, say like a small test cube, while it's printing. You can actually see over extrusion easier during the print when the layers are going down. So if you can get yourself into a position where you can see the layer, it's quite difficult on a Craftbot. There's like a small angle, small window where you can get your head in to see. But you literally got to watch the print, watch what it's doing. You can tell temperature and difference. You can tell if the filament's moist, it's got any sort of dampness. inside the filament, and just by listening for snap, crackle, and pop. So you can really tell a lot about a 3D print by watching it, and that's really how we all sort of make a profile. Is go off the nearest to profile we have, one of our bases. Just like Euro ABS, we have a different base for PLA, and I'll share them in the group after this. That's how we sort of adapt to go in different ways with that. So going down, we've got a loop count. So invariably, a loop count or a bigger thickness or a wall of your print can give yourself far more strength than just increasing your infill count. So Craftware and most of the auto-generated profiles that you have are down at 2. Okay, so but this is totally dependent on your print and how you want it to look, how you want it to feel, how you want it to perform. Not all of those 3 sort of characteristics are always linked and are always required by your customer. There's no point spending so long to make durable prints when they're sitting on a shelf. So it's a way of reducing cost of filament and reducing time, which is an overall cost saving to your business. So loop count's really important. If we're doing some prototypes that aren't going to be used, then we'll have 2. If we're doing some stuff which is strong, we want it to wear, we'll increase that loop count. But loop count's actually linked to the top and bottom layers in Craftware. But we can unlock that by with the unlock functions here, which is really good. Vertical shell offset. We played with this. We use this on our PTG setting to reduce the stringing. You're more than welcome to read through why you think you need it. But we mainly use it to reduce stringing on PTG. So it's the only time we ever have ever needed it. Perimeter width. So here's where you can sort of expand your outside layer. So like if you wanted to make something watertight, maybe you could over extrude it. You can use different settings here to get parameters, perimeter speed. So an outside layer is always going to give you a slow outside layer is always going to give you a better look. So this is in comparison to Simplified 3D, where you have reduce your speed for your outside layer. Loop infill overlap, fairly well described really. We can reduce that. The only time we've ever really adjusted that is reducing it. It's not something we really have to change on a day-to-day basis. So looking into top and bottom shells, we actually use this David for you. So we change this to concentric sometimes when we're printing fishy, because you don't fishy won't warp as much if you print a concentric top and bottom layer, because it's not pulling. The nylon's not in straight line; it's pulling up. So it's quite good to change. Sorry, to check on the ears. Yeah, it's quite good to change that when you're printing nylons. If your top and bottom layers aren't massively important, It's just something for looks, then we can change that to give that a better chance to stick. It's really good with PVA anyway, but it can be increased with that. So the density and width of your top and bottom layers, we can do that here. The speed, we can reduce the speed if we need to. Minimum line length, zigzag, optimization. Don't really change a lot of it. Infill. So this is the bit which we all care about, which will change our infill. This is the width of that infill. So if you were printing at 100% infill, it's got so 120% width on the infill. You will obviously expand your infill out, so you could actually do your print quite a lot of harm if you left that at 120%. If you were trying to present 100% infill, you'd be over extruding your filament. So if you're printing anywhere near top infills, then you reduce that down to 100. So speed on infill. So if you increase your speed, you're going to under extrude your infill. You're going to over extrude it. So not sure why that was. You know, if you're looking for something to just look at, and it's not a massive, it's just there to support your as a support for your closing in on top layers, then fine. But we always reduce this speed here. If you want something strong, then you know you're going to take a little bit of extra time to get it strong. Can have a massive effect. Just by reducing your speed boom. So angling increment, this is the angle increment of your infill layer, so you can change the, if you have a look. I don't do it here, but if you can change, if you change this value when you're looking at the slice, and on here, you can usually this little screen must be broken. But this will come up on the screen. You can see the angle of the infill change when you're doing it, which is really handy. Don't change a massive deal here. Travel speeds, you know, we all know the travel speed for the Craftbot should be like 140, 160. It's limited near there anyway. 200 used to affect older firmware machines. I don't think they were limited, so you just send it into a bit of a meltdown. So we reduced the 200 to 160. Vertical speed, how quick we're going up and down. Retract prime speed, how quick we're retracting. We change that sometimes. Sometimes with TPU, we'll do a really quick short retraction. Drawn order, we covered a little bit of the drawn order last week. Where we can use this to get better writing on top and bottom layers. So So you can really change a lot if you're using text. I know some of our customers do a lot of text on the bottom layers and rely on the captain to give them a nice bottom layer. So changing the drawn order can really give you your text a clearer finish on the bottom. So going swiftly on to supports. This is like mainly for 0.4mm nozzle. But if you bring your support width down to 50 or 60, and that adjusts the width of the support lines, which you can see here is this. And that'll work really well. For PLA, PTG, ABS, PACF, most things. So what we do as well, to make the support like easier to remove from the print, what we can do is over extrude or speed the support up a little bit. So if we change that to 110, it'll be printed at a different speed than anything else around it, what it's nearly connected to, which can be really handy. So you reduce you increase the distance, the support width, or reduce that to 60, soft support width to 50, and 110. The speed multiply on PLA, you can go up to like 125 on the speed multiply, and you'll still get away with it. PTG, you'll still get away with it. Start using that on ABS, you won't. So at 110 for ABS, 110 for PACF, just speeds it up a little bit extra. If you over extrude PACF or try and speed it up too much, you may end up stripping the filament on your extruder, so it's just best not to go too fast. Speeds, I think covered it a little bit. Travel speed, vertical speed, prime speed, filament variable, like I said, the TPU, you can really slow it down. On retraction, so you can really change retraction depending on what filament you're using. So we typically use retraction of say 2mm with PTG, 1.5mm with PTG. PLA, ABS, we tend to use smallest retraction as we can. So we try and use the smallest retraction as we can. But this we can change when we're setting up our profiles. We make increments of 0.25, and it seems to work well. We always start with 0.5. We sort of work up from there. But we end up with PTG quite late, quite high in. What was that, Matt? Oh, was that you? So yeah, you can really change the retraction depending on what filament it is, but oh, okay, I see. I think it's on the screen now. Let me know. Should be better now. Sorry, I'm just waiting for it to move on my screen. I know you can see it. I know. How about now? Better? I think it's because my screen, my big screen that it's on. Less retraction, William. Can you see them now, Jenny? Less retraction, William, if not none. So 0.15 maybe. A really sharp, quick retraction. So I'd probably raise the retract time speed a little bit. Really quick. You can get like 0.15 is probably what you can get away with on Craftbot just to release the back pressure. It's obviously, yeah, 2 sec, Jenny, it's the stream for it is obviously stuck. 2 sec. How about now? Yeah, so flexibles, we try to, the best thing to do with flexibles is to adjust your toolpath. So it basically retracts, or not retracts, but moves on top of the infill when it's moving. Max, you get my phone a minute. So yeah, just to cover some of these, Tom Weybridge, the Weybridge Surf one, like your bracket. He's not. So we were just covering Jenny. We're just covering retractions there, retract length, elevation. So we for PTG we can have this. We have it all the way up to 1.5, and then that William down for flexibles we can use a small retract length, something like that. But as a base, unless we're doing with TB, we'll always start with 0.5. It's just a handy base. On the bottom right of advanced, we've got crossing parameters, avoid crossing, connecting different types, connecting the same types. If you click on them, you can read through everything what they do here. So if you've got an item which you really want to reduce the amount of toolpath stringing you're getting, you can do that here. But be careful when you're going through these settings. Every time you change a setting, there's quite a lot that goes on in the program every time you change a setting. So if you're a little bit too much of a ninja, you'll come into some Craftware errors, which seem to be unsolvable. But I think it's just because there's just a lot going on every time you make a change. Mainly we use crossing parameters where we want to or not to, and then turn our evasion threshold up so we can increase that across large distances on the print. You can avoid crossing always, and you get, when this isn't broken, because it's obviously broken, I've got too many graphics things going on at the minute, this will change. So you'll see a visual representation of what's going on here. We move on a little bit. We go into first layers. So there's actually a little bit of a bug if you're changing layer heights in basic. If you're changing your layer height here, this will change back to 0.2 as a standard. So if you come down to 0.1, you click slice, and then you have to come back into this to make an edit. This will go back to 0.2, but this will stay at 0.1. And that's probably the biggest issue people get with invariable results on the first layer. Is by not realizing that happens. But it does, and you just got to be careful because you can really crush your first layers in quite a lot if you do it after a level. If you've adjusted and made tolerances for that already. You can always come into foundation and change your Z offset. Give yourself more room or less room. Up is to come away, down is to go into the bed. So I can give you some more control over it. Temperature for the first layer, we can increase that. It's quite handy on. Hi Karen. Yeah, it's quite handy on certain filaments, especially nylon. You want to increase your first layer. And one of the biggest problems we have with nylon is the change in between first layer, speed settings, and temperature, and anything after that. The big increase or decrease in speed with nylon, or a big decrease or increase in temperature, and they're both related. Give you delamination, quite bad delamination, so it's good to control that as much as you can, and speed and temperature being related. So if you're really slow on the first layer, then you don't want to be overcooking the filament, or having it at the same temperature going half the speed. So you can adjust that. You need to. So the raft with the base ABS is really good. It comes standard 0.250 to 0.2. We changed this to 0.2, so we have literally the same layer height between our first layer and our raft. It works really well. You get really good adhesion on the Craftbot. We only really have used rafts with ABS, so I can't really comment on changing this base for other materials. However, we have used sacrificial rafts to help adhere nylons and things to the build. So we've got. We come through most of the settings that we would usually change. Raft on or off, skirt, loops. So this is the amount of loops you have on your skirt, which can be changed up and down. If this is 0, then it goes down to your minimum line length, which you can change. So that's only when this is at 0. If this is at 1, then it will go on that. Plus that. And this is your offset from the part. We would typically use this if we were trying to purge your filament or trying to live level a machine and get that first layer right. You could use skirt to do that. But you don't have to. It's best not to. In here we can add a brim. The brim is similar to the skirt, but it's attached. You have one or the other. You just choose the amount of loops, the visual representation of what's going on there. It's obviously not broken now, which is good. Moving on to temperature. So we've got temperatures for ABS here. Hit some temperatures for ABS. We use 250 when we're doing IDEX prints. We actually use 15% fan. For PACF, we have no fan. But most of all the, you can have a look at the different profiles that we have in our group. Feel free to ask me which ones to recommend you download and help yourself. But and they'll all be variable. But say 15% on ABS just helps give it a little bit. The less cooling you use in, the stronger your print's going to be. So if you're making something to go on the shelf, you don't care what it looks like, you can sand it afterwards and have to use a cooling fan. Bed temperature, 110 slightly higher than what it meshes, so it's a little bit of an assumption on your bed meshes front. We use it. If you print an ASA, it's not the same as ABS on the first layer, just come down to 90 to 100. So we can change these settings up and down. And one of the things, obviously, when you're slicing and you're looking to print different filaments, is watching your print again and the temperature and maybe adjusting it whilst you're printing. Can tell you a lot about your item. Maybe you've done a calibration cube. Maybe you've done some tree tests to test your cooling versus your temp. Some temp towers. You have some available in the file section there. Maybe you've done it, maybe you haven't. You can have a look at doing this during your print. G-code, the only really thing I'd probably advise just people to want to change in here if they're not sure, is just the startup extrusion. So it'll just give you some startup extrusion at the start of the print. So that's a good general overview of what we change on a general basis. But there's a dual extrusion side we have here. We can go into this a little bit. We have exit retract and enter prime. We generally change these down to 2. Let's see if I can make this dual color printer on it. Sorry, I'll just look at those in a sec. I'm just trying to change. Every time I click slice, it takes away my slicing screen. I've never really worked out why. So I just changed my cube here a bit. So I've just got some dual extrusion settings here. 2. I'll then use a bit of a bigger cuboid. I'll have more solid layers and I'll have more loops. I change this down to 100, change this down to 100, and I reduce my draw speed slightly in my fill. Don't change my page. That's how I look at generally setting that dual extrusion, and it works really well. I also PBA, and it doesn't always stick to every single material very well. So having a head 1 and head 2 head change strategy is works really well. So I'll just go through some questions here, 2 seconds. So yeah, that can really help the dual extrusion. And you want to change your minimum prime up here. Maybe not that much. See what this looks like. Seems a bit wasteful, but I'd rather it time's more of a thing to us than the cost. So yeah, take it or leave it with this. But if you're doing a big print, then that's not really something you need to be worried about. Really. So if you do this, you can have them change. That's going to be PVA. That's going to be so it does help you. So yeah, kind of covers sometimes. I'll just get my slicer screen back a minute. Obviously, it's gone astray again. No matter how many times I set this up, it will still do what it's done here. Something I'll have to get my head around. Okay, so all our profiles that you see in here are mostly on the group. The TPU one is really really good. I don't know if it's showing me this little pop-up screen. It might not be. Okay, it's not. So in my presets, obviously all the profiles that you would normally use. So they're all available in the file section. Right. Go through some questions in a minute. Breakaway supports for PET-G. So for PET-G, let me just change some. For PET-G, 50/50 60 125 for PET-G will give you like Patterson support. It will give you like really easily removable support. It's like over extruded, it's stringy, but you still get a really good print. It's enough to just tear it away. Don't even need to try. You just rub it off with your hands. So it's really handy. Yeah, so that's really good. Yeah, temp tower is really a really good way of going through that. And it can give you mostly what you need out of a new filament. Really good. And temperature can be related to material quite a lot, and do some stuff on this fishy here. So it's easily to recognise when something should be printed maybe a little bit hotter. So this was printed at 260. It even got to the point where it started under extruding and locking because it was not printing hot enough. We were printing them quite quick, so we did need some extra heat. We had some extra heat. We ran some extra heat through it. More of an easier printing location, so less drag on the hot end. This hasn't been processed. This is just fishy. So as a result, so that can have a massive effect. So this is, we learn profiles just as much as anyone. So an evolution of how that went. It's quite individual with pushing recycle fishing that, because most prints will change and your settings will change on most prints just because of how the print's laid out. So it's quite a tricky one, to be fair. The profile we've been working on recently still needs a little bit of work, but this is TPU with a PTG infill. So this looks really soft, but it's really hard, but it feels soft. It's really hard. So that's worked really well. We're doing quite a bit more of that soon. We'll release a profile for that, which will work well for some people. So if you've got something that you want to have a soft feel, and you want like a hard infill that's not gonna bend too much, but still give you that soft feel on the outside, this is really good. This is using Fibrology 40D, which we've got here in stock. Really good. The PTG can just be anything. I think we use reflow for inside there. Hi Neil, your eyes? Sorry, I didn't see that. Which can be really, really handy. We use like this is like two types of clearment, a clear PTG with TPU, a sparkly TPU. It's actually a reflective TPU, so if you take a picture, it looks like a cat eye in the middle of the road, sort of thing. But it's just a case of mixing the materials. We found that this TPU sticks really, really nicely with PTG, so we were able to do that. Just to check, we can go on both sides, not just one side. So that's the bottom side where it hit the mill bed. Flexible, then we change the PTG, and back to the reflective stuff again. Jam and Jack. So Jam and Jack, we did loads of. We just sliced it on Simplified 3D, and we used the color changes of the Craftbot, the left and right nozzles, to continuously change the color of the print during printing. So you know, you don't have to get your head around the G code of, like, say, a palette or something like that. If you just got Craftbot, you can jump straight in and slice some files, which, you know, you can add incremental layer changes to throughout your print. Pause G codes to get that done. So it's really, really handy. This one here, this is 0.4 mil outside, and then it's got a 0.8 mil solid infill, pretty much, well, say 45% infill. So we've used basically really hard infill. It's quite heavy, but it's still got the 0.4 outside look of something that you would expect. It's great. So having a look into fishy a little bit more, we've got. We talked a little bit last week about the drying effects, how much you can dry the materials and how great it is. We talked a little bit about over drying. This is some evidence of that. So if you have a look in the print here, there's some rings. So the filament has actually been too close to the heating source on one side in a print dry, and was enough to burn the filament. So it can have a bit of an over drying, can have a bit of an effect too. So we got some. We didn't just put stuff in the post-row machine and smooth it. We also have a ceramic bead tumbler. So this is to show the surface finish in between using the ceramic bead tumbler. We've got like a 1 kg tumbler, not tumbled. But I don't know if you can see the reflective, the shine. layers on that. They're really, really good. They look really good. Yeah, it's you see the reflective surface there compared to just the layer lines. So ceramic tumblers can have a great effect on the filament. Another little example in between temperature and difference. Temperature change. This is quite a high temperature. You get quite a glossy finish. Low temperature, more of a matte finish. So it's really good to see. Some profiles that we'll be releasing soon. We've done some more fishy profiles for you guys. We've done some more mixed filament profiles for you guys. So hopefully that'll help. So yeah, that's how I do it. I mean, I look through the material while it's printing. Have a look at what I need to change in my arsenal of the Craftware settings there, and sort of go through and change small variables at a time, running test cubes, and then pushing the boundaries a little bit. If I'm getting string in, then I always look at moisture first. So just dry the spools so I can get rid of that equation. So obviously high temp materials, PTG and things like that, it's gonna happen. So yeah, if you've got any questions, please let me know. Didn't realise we'd be going for 15 minutes already, so crazy times. Don't know if my stream's been updated yet. Okay. So yeah, no, I'm glad you guys can come and check this out. I was planning to do a bit of Simplified 3D, but we're running out of time. But I think what we'll do is next week do some Simplified 3D. Let me know what else you would like to go through. I think, to be honest, Rick, I think for me the differences between S3D and Craftware, a little bit of dual extrusion. Like I do prefer the dual extrusion in Simplified 3D. It's easier to manage, easier to use. You've got more control over it. The repeatability of Craftware is good. For dual, so like for parallel mirror, it's easy to set up. There's no workarounds. There's no G-code entering. There's no. I'd say the main for me is the infills, or infills. There's only one infill on Craftware, which is just the squared infill. It's the only one I really value. Parallel lines can be quicker, but it's just so weak. It can't be used for a functional part at all. So squared is
triangle grid as well.
Yeah, you've used that a few times, haven't you? And that does actually have some infill. So when you're looking at, you have like a weak top and bottom layer, or thin top and bottom layers. Triangle can look pretty cool. If you're having thin layers. But yeah, the Craftware, the supports are really good. For a Craftbot, I'd say it's the slicer for me. There's just benefits in Simplified 3D, which makes it shine out. So yeah. Alright guys. I really appreciate you logging in today. And anything you need to know, please let us know in the group. The guide's always there. And if you need anything, just let us know. We've done some really good deals on Filament for next week. So keep an eye out for that. We've got some good deals on printers at the minute. Thank you very much for logging in.